All right, today's core is all about offers and negotiations. We're going to go through the buyer side and the seller side to give you a good idea of what each side entails. And then beyond that, any questions you have, we can dive into. We are going to skip the lead generation that's here in our core class today, since we did that before we actually started. So let's go ahead and get going.
Rest at the end, not in the middle. And that's something I always live by. I'm not going to rest. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time. It sucks to lose.
Right.
But at the same time, there are answers there, right? So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win, it's exciting when you lose, because the process should be exactly the same, whether you win or you lose. As you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better, you find things that you've done well that worked, figure out how did they work, why did they work, how can you make them work again.
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge. It's an obsessiveness that comes along with it. You want things to be as perfect as they can be, understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can.
And the more you do this, every single time you do this and follow through on an action you commit to, your mind gets stronger. Your confidence grows. And the belief you have in yourself and your abilities continue to grow. Doing things you don't want to do today to create a greater tomorrow is what I'm always focusing on. And it pays off, it always pays off. And as long as I know that I gave my full efforts and I went as long as I could, and I still had passion for it, and I still went for it, and I still cared about it, or I stop when I don't care anymore, then at least I know I gave it an incredible effort, and I can be at peace within myself.
I just really believe that, if you take one step, the universe will meet you where you are and help you take two. Wow. You will be aided. You will be, it responds to that. It was, like the world, people around you, it responds to your action. It responds to you doing one simple thing. Think and imagine time travel, right? As going back in time, getting the opportunity to go back in time to change one thing that radically affects your life, right? If I would have just went over and introduced myself at that moment, or if I would have just, picked up the phone at that moment, you know what I mean? But very rarely do we think about the little thing we can do today that's gonna radically affect. We think about going back and that one. You can do the little thing today. What is the little thing you can do today
that your future self would wish you would have done?
Yeah.
So guys, this video is all about what can you do today that's going to set you up for success tomorrow. Not everything you need to do in a day is going to be perfect. In fact, I would say about 99.9% of it is not going to be perfect, and that's fine. The whole point is to work on your craft, try to perfect your craft, but keep it moving forward.
Rest at the end, not in the middle.
And we've already done that. So today we're going over the offer. The offer is the process of moving from a buyer or seller agreement to a sales contract. So again, we're going to go over both sides, buyers and sellers. So when it comes to writing an offer, the offer stage is an exciting and rewarding time for you and your client. If you represent the buyer, congratulations, your searching has paid off and you have finally found a home that works for them. If you represent the seller, you've done your job, you've marketed, you've shown your worth, you've proven your worth, and you're ready to make it to the closing table. This is the point where the first time, metaphorically, the buyer and seller are coming together. Again, metaphorically, you and the agent are working together. Your buyers and sellers should never be in contact until the closing day. This is a major financial decision and can be a highly emotional experience for them both. Your goal is to bring them together, metaphorically, and arrive at a sales contract in which both parties win. So here's a really good little diagram of the offer process. No matter what side you're on, it's the same process. The buyer makes an offer, sends it over to the seller, of course, they're agents, and then the seller can respond in one of three ways. They can counter it, and then we go into negotiation, we go back and forth. They can accept it. We go to the next step. Congratulations, you're under contract. Or they can reject it. First of all, when it comes to rejecting in this market, depending on your offer, you potentially may never hear back from them. It's nice when the agent responds as, hey, they've rejected the offer, thank you, but no thank you. First of all, no does not always mean no. What's their motivation? What's going on? What was it about our offer that didn't work? And we can try to adjust that. So while they say no, we can then re-offer something. So we're technically still in negotiations, but without the seller participating. We're just still trying to find that sweet spot. Whether you're meeting with them in person, talking to them on the phone, whatever side you're representing, be aware of nonverbal cues. If you see somebody sit back and cross their arms, they're not happy. Scratching their brow means they're thinking. There's a whole psychological side of this, and it's all about what are you thinking, but you're not telling me. You'd like for the buyer or the seller, whatever side you're on, to tell you what they're thinking, but don't always expect that. Kind of expect them to hide things from you that they may or may not want to say. You want to make them, get them to understand that you're there for them. Your job is to represent them. Your job is to negotiate on their side. But at the same time, Alex, if you come to me as a seller's agent, I'm the buyer, or you're the buyer's agent, I'm the seller's agent. You come to me and you have a 50 grand low offer. And I tell my sellers are going to go automatically fold their arms and go, that's not happening. Not in this market. So just by them folding their arms, leaning back and going, that means now they're upset. Now they're not happy at whatever you went through. No. Now they're not happy. You've upset them. So that's the one that you're not going to hear back from, because now they're offended. So when you're making offers, you definitely want to go through every step of everything, and we'll go through some of this stuff to be able to say, hey, how are we going to decide, is our offer going to be accepted, or are we going to end up offending somebody? You're still going to have people who want to lowball, and that's when you as the expert comes in and says, hey, I know you want to get it for the best price, and I want you to as well. However, if we go too low, there's a good chance they'll flat out reject us and we'll never hear back from them. Are you willing to risk losing that property over a low offer? I mean, in this market, there's a good chance by the time you close, you'll have equity. And I'll give you a great example. Went under contract May of last year on a property, brand new build. We're supposed to close on the 28th. We'll see if that happens. That property, he bought for 320. The same property just went under contract yesterday for 510. He hasn't even closed on it yet because he's locked to that price. He's already got $200,000 of equity. So lowballing today isn't going to do anything but upset the seller and may never hear back from them. So representing the buyer. Once your buyer finds a property they want to purchase, there's 3 actions you need to take. Prepare to write the offer, actually writing the offer, and then presenting the offer to the listing agent. When you prepare to write an offer, make sure you're fully prepared. And by prepared, there's different things you want to have ready so that you're not doing a piece and then searching, doing a piece and then searching. You want to pull all your documents that you're going to need right away so that they're in different tabs on your computer, print it out, whatever your choice is, but you've got them ready to go. So here's the checklist. Here's what you're going to do in preparation for writing the offer. You want to make sure you get that pre-approval letter. Either the lender can send it to you if you've already created that relationship, which you should have, or your buyer can send it to you if they've already got it. And most of the time in this market, I request it ahead of time so that I have possession of it, so that when we're ready to write it, I've got it, we're ready to go. It's one less piece I've got to ask for. You want to produce a CMA, a comparative market analysis, and we'll do that in class 9 of 4. This is what's going to be done generally prior to showing the home. In my opinion, I like to do it prior to showing the home, because you're always going to get that question while you're in the house. Well, what do you think of the price? Well, if I haven't done a CMA yet, then I don't know. I could tell you all day long, based on what I see, but I don't have the algorithm in my head. The computer does. The computer does it for you as long as you put in the information you need. So do the CMA, beforehand. If they've got 10, 15 properties they want to see, if you can get them to narrow it down to their top 3 or 4, then do the CMA for them. Otherwise, kind of go at your discretion, seeing what would work best for you in terms of the CMA. I personally do it beforehand so that I'm prepared. It takes time, but it also puts me as the expert. And then review the tax records. This is going to be especially important in this area. We have NAS Jackson, we have Mayport. A lot of times you'll get disabled vets that have a tax exemption. For instance, right now, I've got a property that closes next Friday. Their tax records for a house that the average tax point in that neighborhood is $4,000. Yearly, they pay $48. So when I got a call from the listing agents or the buyer's agent saying, hey, your tax records are wrong. Nope, no, they're not. Tax exempt. Why? Well, that's not for me to discuss, but they're tax exempt. So you're going to get the call. Well, they're wrong. No, there's a reason. So make sure you review that so that if the buyer looks at it and goes, oh, $48 a year on taxes, let's do it. Hold on, Mr. Buyer. There's probably something going on there. Let me do some research and see what I can find out. All it takes is a phone call. Hey, are the tax records correct for this property, or is there something that I need to know? Oh, yeah, they're tax exempt. All right, great, appreciate it. So now that tells me look further back to before they owned it to get kind of a rough estimate, and maybe even an adjoining property that's similar to get another rough estimate. Ultimately, all we have is an estimate, and that's where the lender comes in. They'll be able to pull their information and find out what it could be close to. In this market especially, you want to make sure that property is available. It may show active on the MLS, but if I got an offer while I'm out driving around doing something at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 10 o'clock the sellers have accepted it, I don't have a computer to change it. My phone will do it, but if you've tried, that's a pain. So by the time I get home at 2 o'clock, it's been under contract for 4 hours. It's not available. But if I'm still getting calls on it, then I've got to tell every single person, oh yeah, sorry, we're under contract now. If you'd like to put in a showing request, we may be taking backup offers, but always call and make sure, hey, is this still available? And if it is, yeah. So it's contingent. It's under contract, but it's contingent upon something happening, whether it be a loan approval, inspection, satisfactory. Maybe they got to sell their other house to qualify for the loan, whatever it is. There's a contingency that's attached to it, but it technically is still active for sale.
So if I would have a customer you're away from those houses, or would I wouldn't assume it would be like the first one, obviously. It might not even be it, but
So what I do in contingent take backup or active contingent is I call the agent and I find out what's going on. Most agents will tell you flat out, oh yeah, it's contingent because of blah, blah, blah. I don't see any issues. For instance, mine was contingent take backup because of the inspection. It's a house that was built in 07. It's fully brick. They had it redone. They had it completely remodeled in the past 3 years. I saw no issues popping up. Now, granted, issues popped up, but they wanted door stoppers. That was on the actual inspection report, and they requested door stoppers from the sellers. My sellers looked at them and said, yeah, no, you can put your own door stoppers in. So whenever you call an agent and kind of build that rapport, find out what the contingencies are, what's going on. Is it something that you think is going to fall apart, or are you pretty confident that it's going to be fine? It's just, that's how the contract was written. Most will just tell you. I've never had to ask. I've asked, how confident are you? And if they don't just volunteer the information, then I've always just said, well, how confident are you this is going to, make it to the end? And they'll tell you generally, I'm okay. It doesn't, if your buyers are that enthralled in this property, show it to them. If nothing else, it gives you a great idea of what they're looking for. If they walk in and they go, oh, I love this vaulted ceiling, check. So now they may have never said that to you before, but the moment they walk into a property and see something, now, of course, time is of the essence as well. If they send you a list of 10 properties and 6 are under contract, focus on the 4 that are not. And you can explain to them, in this market, I definitely want to hit these ones that are available now, because we don't know if these other 6 are even available or when they could become available again. So I wouldn't steer away from them, because it could be a chance for you to see what they want. But at the same time, you definitely want to focus on what's available and ready to go. So when you're building with the agent, when you're talking to the agent, build that rapport. Talk to them what they want, or what the seller's motivation is. Really try to decide, when you're writing the offer, if the sellers are having to leave because they got a job and they got to be out in the next 30 days. Well, you may not be told that, but the agent could say, oh, they got a new job in another state. Okay, great. That means they have to leave. So that tells me my time frame. Quick, slow, we'll find it out. If it's, oh, I'm just, they're just trying to see what they can get for it price wise. Okay, well then their price is what their key point is. They're not really focusing on time too much. So building that rapport allows you to gain trust with the other agent, but also find out some information of how to structure your offer. And here we go. Ask questions of the listing agent to discover what's important to the seller. All goes back to motivation. Do they have one? Is it price? Is it time? Is it, they just don't have time to do showings in the weekend. So you really got to focus during the week. So now you've narrowed your pool of buyers to only these time frames. Gives you a little bit more negotiation power, because hey, we looked at it during the time frame. We're the only ones. Let's get an offer in. Inquire about the activity on the property. If it's been online for more than a day, check the activity. There could be a good chance there's a highest and best coming in this market. Ask them flat out, what kind of activity have you had? Have you had any other offers? Some agents will tell you flat out, yeah, we've got a bunch of offers. We're going highest and best. Some will tell you, I'm expecting other offers. Some will tell you anything. So you got to really listen to how they're talking and what they're saying. Sometimes read between the lines. And if there's no seller's property disclosure, check on that. There should be one in the documents on the MLS, not always. So if there's not one, ask them for it. This way you can go over it with with your buyers, and there's no hidden surprises. So now we're writing the offer. You want to go over all of these with your buyer to make sure you're on the same page. When it comes with the price and terms, you want to consult with the buyer, your CMA, and really decide what's the best strategy to go with. Looking over the seller's disclosure, because again, they do have to sign this. This is acknowledging that they've reviewed it. They're okay with what's on it. If there's a make or break item for them, definitely discuss that, because it could mean let's move on to the next house. If there's some items in there that they potentially want to check into, well, if that's not a make or break for you, we can still move forward and let the inspection do its job and then reassess later. And then any conveyances. This is huge when it comes to the writing in the contract. Certain things are automatic, certain things are not. For instance, a refrigerator, technically on the NEFAR, is not automatic. A garage fridge is never automatic. So if that is a conveyance, you want to make sure that gets put in there. Generally, items that are affixed to the property, so curtains, drapes, ceiling fans, light fixtures, those floating shelves, those are all bolted to the property, so they stay. I was told once, I don't remember who said it, but if you take that property, you flip it upside down, anything that falls out leaves. If it sticks to the property, it stays. So if there's something in the actual report showing, oh, ceiling fan in the living room does not convey, okay, no problem. We make sure that gets put in the contract, and we prepare the sellers or the buyers for not having that ceiling fan. You will have somebody who falls in love with the house because of a chandelier. So if that chandelier for some reason is not staying, we need to know. What I tell people as a listing agent is, when I go in, if there's anything that you do not want to stay, ceiling fan, light fixtures, let's remove them before we even take pictures. That way the buyers never know it's there. Otherwise, you will have somebody who wants to see a property strictly because of the chandelier or strictly because of the fan. Whatever the case is, you will have those people. And it's just a conversation between you and the other agent. And even if it doesn't show it on the MLS, it does not hurt to contact them and say, hey, I want to make sure that that ceiling fan is staying. Oh, you want to make sure that ceiling fan is staying. You never know. So just have that conversation. If it's something kind of out of the ordinary, ask. Earnest money. This is where the buyer makes a deposit to the seller. This is basically skin in the game. In this market, 1 to 2% is standard. However, when you're trying to make your offer look a little more attractive, you can go higher than that. Keep in mind, these are protected as long as your contract is written in the correct way to do so. But the more that's there, in essence, the more skin in the game. So if you're really trying to win a contract, say if you're at 300,000, 2% is 6,000, maybe you want to do 12,000, do 4%, putting you ahead of the others. Because what this does for the seller is if for some reason the buyer faults on the contract and they pull out and the seller gets to keep the money, well, the house was under contract for a month and a half. Seller ended up walking away with $12,000 and now gets to relist his property because you as the buyer messed up. But at a lower earnest money, let's say they only put $1,000 down. If something was to happen, month on contract, under contract, now the seller only walks away with 1,000. They really wanted that 12 over that 1. So it puts a little more skin in the game, a little more, hey, I really want this. It shows the seller that the buyers are going to do their job because they don't want to lose that money. They want this money to go towards that property. Time for seller acceptance, making sure that the time works for everybody. If the time on the MLS says seller will not respond to offers before Sunday at noon, well, then you put Sunday at noon. Typically, it's 24 to 48 hours, unless otherwise stated. You'll see some offers come in where they want a response in 2 hours. I put in my MLS allow at least 24 hours for response because I know my sellers are not going to be available within 2 hours to go over a contract, decide what they want to do. You'll see those agents do that because they're trying to just hurry up and get it. They don't want anybody else to be able to even try. But keep in mind, you do that, there's a good chance they're going to say, well, we're not responding in 2 hours, change it or don't submit. It's the market. And then financing terms. Make sure the financing terms are agreeable to both sides. By agreeable to both sides in this market, and I haven't seen one in a long time, you're not going to see an assumption of mortgage, and you're not going to see a seller financing because there's just too much risk for them. If it's a VA, FHA, USDA, conventional, those are the 4 you're going to see pretty standard. Make sure it's acceptable to both sides. Each one has benefits and drawbacks, and it's all about, for the seller side, it's all about what's the safest for them. For the buyer side, unfortunately, it's all they have to go with. So if you have, conventional is stronger than FHA, that's not to say a conventional is going to beat an FHA because there's other factors, but you want to make sure that the seller and the buyer are completely aware of both or of all options when it comes to what these loans mean. For instance, VA, if you've got any wood rot on the property, VA won't touch it because it's a government-backed loan. So VA wants it completely fixed, not remedied. They want it removed and replaced. They don't want it just treated. So if you're looking at I showed a property on the river, completely wood, built in 1894. Beautiful home, wood rot all over the place. The moment we walked up and saw it, I knew he was VA. I said, hey, Mr. Buyer, this is gonna be a hard one. Why? Your VA will not allow wood rot at all, and the entire bottom of this house is rotten. Either they have to replace it or this house has to be demolished. Well, it's built in 1890 something. I understand that, and it's a beautiful home, but your lender is going to be the one to say, So making sure you have that pre-approval letter. This is included when you send it over to the agent, the seller's agent or the listing agent. This is in essence, your proof that, hey, this buyer can't afford this. Either a pre-approval letter or a proof of funds if it's cash. Loan approval. This is going to be the time that your lender, your buyer's lender, needs to get full loan approval. We're ready to go, clear to close. let's do this. Check with the lender. Some lenders can do it in 21 days. Most take about 30. Some loans require 45. So you always want to check with the lender to make sure that whatever time frame you're putting on this contract will be able to be met. You don't want to put 20 days and then the lender says, oh, I need 45. Well, now you just messed the contract up because now that lender can't do what you said he could do. So now it requires changing the contract. And if the seller doesn't agree to the new change, well, you just lost that contract and everybody's got to back out. And then closing date. Make sure that this works for everybody. And by everybody, I mean buyer, seller, title company, lender, bank. We try to stay away from Mondays and Fridays. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be your absolute best bet. Reason being, Monday, if you do it on a Monday and something happens right before, you have no time to fix it. There's no time to go to the bank. There's no time to call the lender. They don't work weekends. They don't all work weekends. And if it's on a Friday, most banks stop sending wires at noon. So if you have a Friday close at 4 o'clock and you tell your buyer, oh yeah, they need about 2 hours to make sure the wire gets there, and they go at 2 o'clock to send it. Oh, sorry, Mr. Banker man, we don't send it after 12 o'clock on Fridays. Well, now you got to push closing because the buyer didn't get the wire out in time. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the safest. You will still have a Monday or a Friday close. It's the nature of the beast. But if you can try for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those are the absolute best to go with. Home warranty. Review any home warranty considerations, whether the buyer wants to pay for it, the seller wants to pay for it. You as the agent can give it as a closing gift if you need to, if you want to. If they decline, if the buyer declines it, get that in writing. If you were to be audited, that's one of the things they check for, was a home warranty offered. So if you have it in writing saying this person does not want this home warranty, you're safe. You offered it. You did your job. Special clauses or contingencies, and this is what you were talking about, Alex, where it's contingent. There's different things. It can be inspection. It can be warranty, or not warranty. I'm sorry. It can be inspection. It can be lending. The other buyer, or the buyer may have to sell their current property. All sorts of different contingencies that can be added into the contract. And when this does it, it's the sale is contingent on whatever the case is. But again, keep in mind, in this market, it has to be agreed to by that seller. We're seeing a lot of properties right now where if you have to sell your house first to buy my house, I'm not accepting your offer, because even though it'll sell, I have no doubts about that. I've got other offers that don't have that contingency. So you'll see a lot of people who are starting to sell their home and go into a rental just to remove that contingency off their offer, to where they have more of a chance of being picked up. Hey, Shibangi, can you keep yourself muted, please? I don't. I got a lot of feedback on this side. And then the cover letter. So cover letter that we all think of is like the old school high school report, where you have a cover letter, has your name on it, has what you're talking about. You can put something like that if you'd like to. However, that's just more time. My cover letter has always been an email, which goes through everything that I'm sending you, because I send it to you in a PDF format. Never send your offer on DocuSign or Dotloop. Connie even went over this the other day in Daytona's team meeting. If you send it via DocuSign or Dotloop, and you as the other agent may or may not have access to that kind of stuff, it creates more of a process for you. And now I've upset you as the agent. So take the extra 2 seconds on your side, download it to your computer, attach it to an email and a PDF, and send it that way. When you send this cover letter, again, for me, it's an email. I thank them for allowing us to view the property. I go through what my offer has to show. I go through any specific details they may need or could be useful in determining it. And if there's anything negative, we'll call it contingency right now a negative, I put it in what I call a negative sandwich, where I have a positive. Hey, we love the offer price, or we love the list price of 400. We do have a contingency for the buyer selling their own property now. And then I end it with a positive. So you've got positive, negative, positive. Sandwiches the bad in the middle. That way the bad is still in there, but you're not ending with a bad. If you end with a bad, it gets the whole, oh, I like the beginning of that, but I don't know about that one. Versus ending with something good. For instance, if the contingency is that we have to sell the buyer's property first, I'll end with, and we're under contract on the buyer's property. It's due to close this date, which is why we've lined up this property to meet this one. And we're done. I've ended with good. So it leaves them with a, oh, okay, this could work. And it gives them a sense of relief. So here's a few different objections you make. When the buyer wants the seller to make repairs, keep in mind this is a script. Change it how you want to change it, but making sure you still get the same point across is the whole goal. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, until you have until you have a physical inspection, we will not know how much these items will cost. Remember, you're not a contractor, you're not an inspector. If they ask you about the roof, I'm not sure. We'll have to get the inspector to take a look. What's the cost of that? I'm not sure. I'm not a contractor, but I do have a vendor's list of plenty of them that can take a look. And we can find additional repairs we may want to negotiate. Consequently, you have three choices. One, you can offer the seller less money now to compensate for these items, in which I would put that in my cover letter as to why we're going lower. Two, you can ask the seller now for credit to repair these items using your own contractor. Not recommended in this market. This market doesn't demand that. This market says, I'm going to find somebody else who doesn't want to repair it. Or usually I advise clients to wait until the physical inspection and negotiate all repair items at one time. How would you like me to negotiate this offer on your behalf? The third option is generally the safest because it gets you under contract on that property, but we know we're going to go after certain items when the inspection comes out. However, if you walk into a home, there's a giant gaping hole in the roof, there's a good chance the buyer's going to say, oh, I don't even want to deal with that one. That's fine. But if you review the items on the property disclosure and you've seen the property, little nitpicky things here and there, that's worth going the extra step and going under contract and getting the inspection to really see is what we saw a problem. If you see a run in the paint or something and they point it out to you, and again, you're not a contractor, so you have no clue what that's from, the buyer automatically thinks, oh my God, the wall got wet and everything ran. The inspector is going to come in and go, oh, somebody doesn't know how to paint. That's a paint run, that's it. So what you thought was thousands to fix is about an hour at Home Depot, come home, scrape that off and repaint it. When the buyer wants to make a low offer, the best way to handle a buyer wanting to make a low offer is dictated by the market. On a market 2 years ago, they could probably go in a little low. It was the old school method of let's go low. They're way up here. We'll meet somewhere in the middle. This market doesn't demand that. You go too low, they're going to go next. All right. Yep. We'll do the next one in 5 minutes. So that's all it is. It's how far do you want to bring it? Are you willing to scare them off and upset them? Or are you willing to go for, don't give me attitude. Erica looked at me like, in this market, a low offer could be competing with multiple offers and could be an insult to the seller. Tread lightly. We all want it for the best price. I mean, even now, if you went in to negotiate for a car, good luck. You're not negotiating for a vehicle. What the price is what the price is. Same thing on a house. You can try, just keep in mind, a year ago, 2 years ago, 20,000 low wasn't an insult. Now 5 too low could be an insult. So keep in mind, and this is where knowing your market, knowing what's selling, how long it's on the market, and the price point it's selling for. You told me last, or Monday, there was 100.5%. That shows they're going over list. So the last thing you want to do is go low. So you knowing that statistic says to your buyer, Mr. Buyer, I know you want to go low, but as of last month, we were seeing properties go at 100.5%, meaning 0.5% higher than they were even listed. Are you wanting to drop the price and potentially lose the property? And then present the offer to the listing agent. This is the part where listen to their verbal cues, listen to anything they do to tell you what their thought is. Call the listing agent immediately to let them know an offer is coming. Email the listing agent the offer package with an offer overview. Request receipt of the offer. That right there is key because you want to make sure they got it. If the seller counters, consult with your buyer to either accept the counter offer or re-counter the offer. And at this point, it's important to remind your buyer of current market conditions. This goes back to that 100.5%, say 3 days on the market. It's been on there 2 days on the market and they're countering at list price rather than higher. Are you willing to take it at list price, or are you willing to lose it over $5,000 that you went too low? It's not your decision. All you can do is kind of give them the information they want and say, hey, here's the information. Take what you want from it, but tread lightly. So when the seller counters the offer, when your buyer's offer is countered and your buyer wants to recounter, it's important they have the proper perspective. And this is where that $5,000 low could potentially come in. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, by countering, the seller has essentially just sold you the home for $200,000. If we counter at 195, it allows the seller to walk away from you or accept another offer in the interim. Keep in mind, every time you go back and forth, until it's signed and sent back, it's not real. It's not done. So if I make an offer on your house and we're negotiating and you come in and make an offer on his house and it beats out mine, even between our negotiations, the next call he makes to me is, hey, we've accepted another offer. Just because I'm talking to him already doesn't mean you can't jump in and do something. So the more, if I became a backup, because once you accept her offer, if you come to me and say, hey, we've accepted another offer, do you want to be the backup? If I say no, then we're done. I go about my day, I go find something different. If I say, yes, I want to be your backup, if yours falls apart, I step up. But I'm sitting here negotiating with you thinking we got this in the bag. It's just a matter of back and forth. The longer this takes, the more of a chance there is for someone to swoop in and say, hey, I'll give you list price cash. Let's do this.
So if that happens, you're my backup, and this ends up falling through with me and the client not,
If technically, yes, if I'm backup with you and I find something different, I immediately have to come back to you and withdraw my backup. If I don't withdraw my backup and I've accepted something else and you then accept my backup, I've got a lot of paperwork to figure out because I messed up and shouldn't have let that one keep going. There's time frames that get involved, and that's where Lee would come in. But yeah, my job as the agent is if I find something different, I need to come to you and remove my backup while I'm doing this one. Is the risk of selling away your dream home for only $5,000? Are you okay with that risk? $5,000 over the course of a 30-year note is like $20 a month. Don't get Starbucks twice a month. You're fine. Sometimes people look at the total price and they're not thinking 30 years. They're thinking, oh, $5,000 more right now? No, $5,000 over the next 30 years. It's not a lot. So sometimes breaking it down, putting it in perspective for them is key. All right, let's go into the seller. As a new agent, most of the time you're going to focus on buyers. As a listing agent, as you work further and further and really concentrate on those FSBOs that you're working on, you're going to love being a listing agent because there's so much less stress involved. Yes, you're still stressed. You're doing your job. You're really marketing everything, but you're not chasing things down. People are chasing you down. So when a buyer makes an offer on your client's property, there's 4 actions to take. Receive the offer, gather information about the buyer, present the offer to your client, and respond to the offer in whichever way your seller decides to. So when you receive the offer, first and foremost, always thank the agent. Keep in mind, if you do go under contract with this agent, you're a team. Working against each other and butting heads is not going to do anything but make this a painstaking process. You're a team. You, the lender and title, all work together to accomplish the same thing. As the listing agent, my job is to sell the seller's home. As the buyer's agent, your job is to help the buyers buy the home. So in essence, I'm getting my people out, you're getting your people in, and we're just making this a smooth transaction. If you know or even think there may be other offers coming in, tell the buyer agent at this time. This will create urgency. Then review the offer for accuracy and completeness. I wish this was a statement I didn't have to make, but you will need to review it to make sure it's complete. You will get offers a lot where there's such a rush to get it because they know other offers are going to come in. They're going to forget pieces. Unfortunately, that's when you have to go back to the agent and say, hey, you didn't put what kind of loan it is. Your math isn't right. Whatever it is, go back to them, say, fix it before I present it. Because if I present it and it's wrong, now I look dumb because I didn't go through it with you beforehand to my sellers. Gather information about the buyer. Aim to learn as much about the buyer and their motivations as possible. Ask the buyer's agents questions such as how long have they been looking? Have they been pre-approved? Do they have anything to sell? This is the contingency part. If they're from out of town, why are they moving to the area? Why do they select this particular property? Keep in mind, some of these questions are not going to answer, but each one of these will give you a little more insight as to their motivation, how they came up with their offer price, assuming it's low. I only ask that one if it's low. And then, have they made any offers on other properties? If so, what happened on those negotiations? Again, keep in mind, they may or may not answer these, but at least you'll have a little more information than you did to start with. And it tells you, oh, we've looked at 10 properties, made offers on 9, and just they're not getting accepted. Okay, so at this point, your buyers could be desperate. I'm not saying that to the listing agent, but that's my thought. They could be desperate, meaning they're probably willing to negotiate a little bit more in favor of the seller rather than themselves, because they're at the point now, oh, they're moving to this area for a job. They got to be here in 30 days. And they've made offers on 10 properties. They're really desperate. They've got to find something. So that gives you the information, the internal information, if you will, of how I can structure my counter offer if we need to. Technically, you're an hour late. No, still technically an hour. We started at 9. I have a closing at 11. Yeah, I sent out you saw that email. Oh yeah, I don't think Julia changed the calendar. I had Vincent change it for Daytona. You're good. You're good. I heard about yesterday's listing appointment. How'd that go?
Yeah, like I already have a buyer, this and that, but then this represents a free.
Yeah.
Just have it side at 6% and say like, all right, we'll do 5.3 and we'll just, put it on the MLS.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that was it.
And it came from the FSBO calls.
It did. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all on Zoom can hear this, but Evan made some FSBO calls yesterday. Had a listing appointment yesterday that went really well. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's making the calls and just getting used to them. I told you, get out of your comfort zone, go sit in that little cubicle corner and make your calls. Guys, when you're sitting at home, and I was guilty of it myself, when you're sitting at home making these calls, sure, you feel productive for a little while. Evan, you've been here, what, 3-4 months now? Oh, I was going to give you less than that. 6 months, but he got stuck in his, I'm going to sit at home. I'm comfortable here. I'll do all the stuff here. Break the habit, get out of the comfort zone, put yourself in a place that you can be productive. Yeah, we'll go with that. Exactly. You're around people that are doing it themselves. You're going to feed off each other. So the more you can do that, the more you can break the habit, get away from the norm of whatever's going on, the better off you are. Good job, Evan. Yeah, you have no excuse. Helen said, good job, Evan. All right, so wrong button. There you go. I mean, you got with the issues that she had, you've got a workaround for all of them. It's a win-win for you. Hey, 3%, that's fine. I'll represent both of you. I'll represent the transaction, get you guys taken care of. And if for some reason this falls apart, I'll throw it on the MLS. We'll do the 6. That way you're protected on both sides. It's a win-win. So gathering information about the buyer, the more you know about the buyer, the better prepared you and your seller will be to respond. If necessary to counter, the goal is to respond with a high likelihood of knowing how that response will be taken. If I counter your offer, if my sellers counter your offer, and there's a motivation on your side, and if I counter it the correct way, I already know this is going to be accepted because this meets your needs. It meets my seller's needs, but it meets your needs as well. So we're in that middle ground of everybody's happy. You don't want to come back at an astronomical number, or if I'm told as the agent, oh, my buyers need, they only got 30 days, I got to be out of their property, they're moving here. Oh, my guys need 75 days. Well, there's a good chance that's not getting accepted because they don't have an extra 45 days. So writing it or countering in a way that you know how it's going to be accepted makes it night and day different. So checklist for reviewing an offer. You want to make sure the address is correct. This sounds childish. Make sure the address is correct. Because if you're writing multiple offers for people and each one's getting declined, by the time you get to the 9th or 10th offer, there's a good chance you've forgotten to change the address. Make sure the price is correct. Same scenario. Write a bunch of offers. I've put it at 200 and this property over here is 230 and I forget to change it. Now it looks like I'm lowballing you. Earnest money, same thing. Same thing we just talked about, 1 to 2%. But as the seller's agent, you want to make sure there's enough skin in the game. If they come at you with a $250 earnest money deposit on a $500,000 house, the sellers are going to laugh at you. So you want to make sure what you're doing matches what you're asking. Time for acceptance. Same thing. If I've told you, hey, Sunday at noon is when we're going to make a decision, and you want to know by Friday at 5, it's not going to happen. Call me. Hey, how long do your sellers need to make a response? I want to make sure that it lines up for their time frame. Putting it in a way of, hey, as the buyer's agent, hey, I'm trying to make it work for your sellers. I'm trying to go the extra step. What works for you? What can I do to make your life easier, your seller's life easier? What can I do? That to me says we're going to work really well together because I'm not going to have to chase you around for stuff. You will have agents. Sorry, guys. You're going to have agents who are going to fight you. You're going to have to chase them down. Hey, you told me you'd send me this. Oh, I'll get it to you tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. Hey, you told me you'd send me this yesterday and today. I'll get it to you by the end of the day. I'm going to call you nonstop until you send it to me because I need it. You don't want to have to do that. You want to work with somebody who's going to be upfront, honest, and ready to go. Making sure you have that pre-approval. And this all lines up for writing the offer and reviewing the offer. Make sure that pre-approval is in hand because unless you have pre-approval or proof of funds, the money's not real. I can write down all day long on a napkin, I've got $1 million. Give me a blue crayon, that's what I want to do it in. I don't have $1 million, so that's not a real proof of funds. Proof of funds is from a bank. It's got a bank letterhead. It's usually signed by the bank attendant. Attendant? I don't know. Somebody at the bank signed it. Same thing for a lender. The lender has sent this out with their letterhead saying, yes, it's good for this much. Making sure the loan approval matches. Again, timeframes, guys. Make sure that loan approval matches what you're asking for. Making sure, if you see a 15-day loan approval, my first call is going to be back to the agent. Hey, Did you mean a 15-day loan approval? Yep, I checked with the lender. All right, cool. Now I know. Financing terms, make sure they're agreeable to the seller. That's when you really dive into, hey, this is conventional. Hey, this is FHA. Hey, this is cash. Go through each one, letting them know kind of the good, bad, and the ugly on each. Sometimes cash doesn't win. I've had plenty where it's been a low ball cash, but I know it'll appraise, so we go conventional. Closing date, make sure it lines up for everybody. As the listing agent, you're more concerned with the seller's time frame. Of course, if you can get them all to line up, awesome. But your job is the seller's time frame. If they have to be out within 30 days and they want to close before they leave the country, I have this going on right now. We close next week, but they need to close before they leave the country. It can be done overseas, but you know how long it would take to get documents handwritten and signed from here to Italy? I have no idea. I've never been to Italy. So I would imagine FedEx took a while to deliver a bumper to my house. So I can only imagine across the sea. You know what that would cost? I'm really curious now. $100. But point being, if you can make it work for everybody, do that. Otherwise, your sellers are your primary objective. And then home warranty. Sometimes 2 years ago, we could get sellers to pay for home warranties all day long. Right now, a little more difficult because it's the seller's market. However, the one I'm closing on next week, military family's buying it. My seller said, hey, yeah, we'll pay for the home warranty. You know, we'll thank him for his service. We've been there, done that. It costs $600. $600 for a home. I mean, $600 for a home warranty. Why would you not? And I think it's like 610 through 210 home warranty. Their prices are going up. We have a thing out front, like a booklet, but call Trish. She'll go through it all day with you if you want. It's a special price, as you know, for like agents, because we're doing it at the time of closing. The renewal is more expensive, but there's like $100 deductible. I think it covers most of your major appliances and certain pieces. Call Trish at 210 Home Warranty. Her card's up front. St. August or Daytona, you guys have the guy, I don't know his name, but it's still 210 Home Warranty. Call them, talk to them about it, because they'll dive into everything they've got. It's an awesome service. For $610, you as the seller's agent and recommend it. I always do, just because, hey, Mr. Seller, you pay for this home warranty for them for $600 out of your $300,000 you're about to walk away with. It means they're not going to contact you going, well, you sold me a lemon. No, you had your inspection. I'm just doing this as a favor, as a congratulations on your new home. We loved it just as much as I hope you will. Here you go. Conveyances. Go through the appliances and fixtures requested by the buyer with the seller. Be sure all of them convey. Also be sure that you're not getting ridiculous requests. This one that I've got closing next week, they asked for the air hockey table. Sorry, foosball table. Is that the thing where you like slide the little puck down the thing? Air hockey, okay. Okay, then it's not foosball. Yeah. Shuffleboard. It's a real shuffleboard table with like actual sawdust on it, like it's supposed to be. It's like a $5,000 table. They offered full price on the home. Okay. But then they asked for about $13,000 worth of stuff in the house. My sellers looked at them like, you're nuts. Of course, we removed all that and changed it. But make sure you look over that stuff, because they'll put it in a place where it's like not hidden, but it's not quite obvious. So you want to make sure you're looking at all that, making sure everything conveys. Repairs. If you've already gotten repairs on the offer, go through them. If not, when they come in from the inspection, go through them then, and we can always renegotiate. There's 2 times you negotiate: in the beginning and during your due diligence periods. And then special clauses or contingencies. This is when the buyer's house has to sell first. Loan approval contingency, closing costs. We need help with closing costs. Well, 2 years ago, easy, all day long. Now it can still be done, but it requires a little bit of thinking outside the box. Making sure all the disclosures are there: HOA, CDD, condominium, property disclosure, affiliated business, whatever you've got on your MLS, making sure all those are there with it. I have a special form that I use that basically says, hey, send all documents to consider your offer complete. Until they're there, it's not complete to me, because I'm not going to waste my people's time by going through everything. And then I send you another copy of the HOA and you go, oh, it's that much per year. Yeah, they don't want that. So now you've wasted my time and yours and my sellers and your buyers. And then possession date. Right now, you're seeing a lot of properties. People are buying it and then letting the seller live there for a week, 2 weeks. I've seen 2 months for free. So see what the possession date is, if the buyer's taking it the day of, or if he's going to let the seller live there for a certain period of time. You don't know, so always check it.
I saw, but I saw where, I think that's like recently happened a lot, especially now.
It makes the offer stronger.
Without having paid for the month, there was an offer decline, they were declined due to the fact that the other person said, oh, we'll allow you to stay for free for the first month.
Yeah. It's becoming a great thing for people, because it goes back to the contingency of, I got to sell my house first. But if I sell my house and you allow me to live in my house for an extra 30 days, well, I've got 30 days of no contingency. And I'm not paying a mortgage. I'm paying, I would still, me personally, I'd still pay for the water and electricity and all that. But it gives you negotiation power of saying, hey, I want this house that bad. And I get where you're coming from, that you need to get your contingency removed. Stay there for a month for free. Just, you got to be out by this day. And we have documents for all that stuff. And of course, Lee and all that will help you get that done. Title will help you write up those contingencies. But there's so many out there right now that's a huge bargaining chip, because it allows that person less stress of trying to meet this time frame and this time frame. They've made 10 offers and nothing's been accepted. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So you making like, hey, I've still got my rental for an extra 30 days. I'll give you the extra 30 days scot-free. That's huge in this market. So if that's the issue you're running across for your people, talk about it. They've been living in it for 6 years. What's an extra 30 days? So when you present the offer to your client, you've received an offer from the buyer's agent and have reviewed this offer to make sure there's no questions or surprises. Now it's time to present it. First and foremost, call your client and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I've got an offer for you. What's best for you? I personally like to do it in person so I can see their bodily reactions. That didn't sound good at all. Nonverbal cues is what I meant. And the sad part is this is all recorded, so I can't even go back and edit that out. I don't know how. I'm probably sure I could, but I don't know. Yeah, some weird motion. Helen's over here laughing at me. So y'all can't see him. We're talking about, bodily reactions, and Alex just went. That's how kind of rhythm I had. You like that? It's a curse. But I ask them how they want to review it. Zoom, call, person. Of course, their schedule has a lot to do with that. My buyers are military. Sorry, my sellers are military. So for them, it was not so much they had the availability. So it was, hey, I'll send it to you, and then we'll go over it verbally while we're both looking at it. I can throw it up on a Zoom call with them. Whatever works best for your people. Keep the tone of the conversation as positive as possible at all times. Never criticize the buyer, their agent, or their offer, even if it's low. And it's going to be hard at first, because you're going to start to see ridiculously low offers and just think, what are you people thinking? Don't do that. Keep it very monotone. Explain the offer, discuss the days on market, number of showings, and review an updated CMA to put the offer in perspective for your client. If you've been on the market for 30 days and your showings have really dropped off, and now you're getting a pretty good offer, it could be worth accepting. Hey, Mr. Seller, I know you're really hoping to get that 450. In this market, we're well past the average days on market. And so I really do think that even though this one's about 10 low, it is right in line with what the market's saying to us. The market is telling us it's this price. We're not the ones anymore dictating it, the market is. So sometimes putting it in a way that they can understand is best. One second, guys, let me answer this. Okay. All right. So reaching a decision. Once you've reached a point of positive agreement with your client on how they will proceed, explain they have three choices. Accepting the offer means we go right to contract to close. We're working on the next steps. We're officially technically off the market, even though contingent take backup. We can take backups, but showings will drastically drop on a contingent take backup because, like we talked about, they're focusing on the active. They're not focusing on the contingent ones. Countering. The moment you counter an offer, so Evan, you made an offer on the property. My sellers have countered it. Now it's up to your buyers to accept it. Your buyers can flat out say, nah, we're good, we're moving on. So you've officially switched from being the offeree to the offeror, and you've gone back and forth. So keep in mind, during this time frame of you and I going back and forth, one of you can make an offer on it and take it from me. So, or vice versa, whatever, whoever's the agent again. But keep in mind, the longer these things take, the more risk is there. That's why if you can talk to your buyer's agent and say, hey, what's going on? What's their motivation? What can we do? You want to respond in a way where it's a high likelihood of it being accepted. That way you're not going back and forth a million times. And reject the offer. In this market, this is very common. If the offer is unreasonable, the seller may reject it. The seller may or may not decide to invite the buyer to submit a new offer. If I've got 1,000 offers and you don't get accepted, all my email is going to say, and you're going to be blind carbon copied on it, thank you so much for your offer. We appreciate it, but the seller has accepted another offer. Done. If you get a response. I've seen a lot of agents not respond, and that's unprofessional, but there's no rule. There's no, like, you have to respond. So you as the seller's agent or the listing agent, be the one you want to be. Be the positive influence. Be the agent with charisma and pride, and respond. It takes 2 seconds. Literally. Maybe a little longer than 2 seconds, but you get the idea. Presenting the offers, presenting a low offer to the seller. Again, never criticize or show a negative attitude about a low offer. Present all points of agreement first before discussing price or any other disagreements. Now that's lower than our asking price, but it is an offer. So we do need to decide what you want to do. Do we go back and say, hey, that's too low, come up on your offer? Do we give them a price to offer back? Or do we just say, we appreciate it, but we're going to, explore other offers? You have to be able to talk to the agent on both sides and gain that trust with each other to say, how can we make this work? How can we get this together? Recommending that the seller accept the offer. Again, this is a script. Take it, tweak it, use it for what you want to use it for, and put your own spin on it. People are going to know when you're reading from a script right away. And and people are going to know when you're honest and true and genuine. I will urge you to consider this offer very carefully and consider the value of meeting your moving goals. In the long run, meeting your overall goal of selling your home is the more critical need, correct? Your property has been on the market now for 10 days, and the average time on market for this area is 2 days. Buyers are going to look at the same data they're going to see that your neighbor's house sold for only 250,000 and the house around the corner sold for 225,000. They're not going to want to, or they're going to want to pay fair market value compared to those other sales. If you accept this offer, the probability of closing and meeting your goal is 100%. You want to meet your goal, right? That sounds very rehearsed. I mean, you just hand it to them. Here, this is what I'm going to say. I can say the exact same thing without that. It's, and then, you know, all he has in here, all the script has in here is it shows them what's your goals, time, and price. Well, Mr. Seller, you know, you did tell me you have to be out in 30 days. If we do accept this offer, that really gets you to where you want to be. Your home's been on the market for 10 days. Average here is only 2. And the home around the corner sold for 250 and another one for 225. I mean, at this point, we're only going to get what the market dictates is fair market. I just said the exact same thing in half the time. Take it and tweak it for yourself. We have tons of scripts to use purposely for you to learn how to say it and what to say, and then make it your own. Representing them, recommending that they make counteroffer. Again, script here, you guys can read it for yourselves. Basically, this one says, I know where you're coming from. I understand that you want this price. However, the ones we've gotten have been lower. So rather than just rejecting, where can we find that middle ground? Let's pretend the home is 450. We get an offer of 400, 420, 415, and 423. Hey, Mr. Seller, I really understand where you're coming from. I know you saw the house around the corner sell for 450. Unfortunately, that house is a slightly larger floor plan. I can understand how you definitely want to get the most for you. The market is showing us that we're around the 420 range. You know, what if we come back at a 425? That puts you a little bit closer to your goal, but it also puts you still within the realm of today's market. Keep in mind, Mr. Seller, this property is going to sell for what the market dictates and what the appraisal dictates. Even if the appraisal comes in lower, we only have a few options at that point. And at that point, the main option is to go down to that appraised price. So we can accept, we can, you know, go for a 425 price. Ultimately, again, it comes down to appraisal, but it's up to you. So you're kind of putting in there of the realm of, hey, you're a little high. I know you saw the house around the corner, but you don't know anything about that house. I do. I can see what the house sold for. I can see how it sold, when it sold. I see that it sold for cash, meaning it didn't have an appraisal. So we have the ability to kind of put it in perspective for them that, hey, I know Zillow said this. I know Zillow says your house is worth $1 million. Zillow's not taking into account that across the street from you is a Jaguar player's house on the beach with 15,000 square feet, and you have a 2-bedroom trailer. Sometimes it takes letting them know your market is different across that street. We have to use what's similar to your property, not what's just in a circle around you. That's when you become the expert. You're there to say, hey, I know that is not a property we can compare to, because you see how it has gold columns and marble floors and the floor is heated. Yes, there are heated floors. I installed doors for Home Depot and I was sitting on a guy's floor doing something. I was like, what's hot? He goes, oh, sorry, I forgot to turn the floor off. Mm-hmm. Usually tile's cold. I was excited for like, oh, it's hot. It's a hot day out. I'm gonna sit on some cold tile. Sat down. I'm sitting there like, this is weird. The guy's like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn the heat off. So responding to the offer. Once you and your client have made a decision on how you proceed based on the offer you have received, you'll need to respond to the buyer's agent. Notify the buyer agent of your seller's decision. If you are presenting a counter offer, prepare the document in DocuSign. Request a reply within 24 to 48 hours or the shortest time customary for the market. I will say you can also negotiate via email. It's so much easier. Back and forth with email because it's written communication, and title is going to appreciate that because once you come to an agreement, I generally try to have the buyer fix the contract that they originally wrote so that it's clean. If you use the same contract, you've got strikeouts here and little boxes here and initials here and strikeouts there and initials here, it becomes very, very messy. Title will sometimes come back and say, hey, clean this up for us. Their job is not to decipher what you've written with your hieroglyphics. Their job is to get it to the closing table, process all the paperwork, and be done with it. If the buyer accepts the counter, have the buyer agent obtain his or her client's signature. Again, if it goes back and forth, if you're only making one counter and it's something small, strike it out, do initials, that'll work. And then have the other agent have everything initialed. Once it's sent back to you, that's when you're officially under contract. My record's 9.
I had a house move to Long Island, and it had already gone back and forth.
Mhm.
And my brother was like, if we do it anymore, they're gonna get pissed, not want to buy. I'm like, well, if we don't do it anymore, we're not gonna get work.
Yeah.
And me and him were arguing about it. And I was, why?
You'll have a mixture of people who want to go back and forth, and then you'll have some people who are just twice and I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm aggravated at this point. However, if they want it bad enough, they're going to go back and forth. I mean, and sometimes,
They're going back and really want it.
yeah, sometimes it's dumb little things. You know, if you were negotiating, 50 grand one way or the other, and you're not really coming closer, you're just, oh, a grand here, a grand here. You still got 35,000 in the middle. It may not work. You may not want to keep doing that back and forth. But if it's, oh, we're going to leave the garage fridge. Oh, we're not leaving the garage fridge. It's $400. Are you going to keep going back and forth? Maybe, if you need that garage fridge. But at the same time, eventually someone's going to go, forget it. I'll buy my fridge. I'll go to Scratch and Dent. I'll pay $300 for a brand new one that's got a scratch on the back. You never know. So presenting a counteroffer to the buyer's agent. This is, again, a script, but do the same thing you did for on the buying side. Prepare the email, same way you would normally, only, hey, we're accepting blah, blah, and blah, but we would like to change blah, but we love the price of blah. So negative sandwich, positive, negative, positive. And then you can always call the agent. I do. Some agents will be excited for the phone call, but some will just decline your call and say, leave them a text. And I just text them and say, hey, give me a call when you can. But calling them and saying, hey, Mr. Buyer's agent, we appreciate the offer. We do love the price of blah. The sellers would like to request blah, but we're okay with the closing date of blah. Good, bad, good. So you're doing the exact same thing your email says. You can almost read your email, but you're making sure that not only did they see the email, but now they've heard from you. So they know you're not afraid to pick up the phone and say, hey, let's figure this out. Set the stage for positive negotiation. Whether you represent the buyer or the seller, the goal is the same. Kick off a negotiation process that is positive, efficient, and ultimately leads to a win-win agreement. Win-win that you're under contract. One of you may not be happy because you really didn't want to lose that garage fridge, but at the same time, you got your house sold for right at the asking price and not a penny less. So if you accept it, ideally, if the listing and offer are priced right, seller will accept the buyer's initial offer and move directly into the contract and close process, bypassing any negotiations on price and honestly anything else. So accepting is the easy one. Hey, we appreciate it. We accept it. Let's move forward. Done. Rejecting. Remember, this is no does not mean no. It doesn't mean no deal. It just means no to this. If you want it bad enough, go fix it and come back to us. Change something about it because I don't like something that happened or something that you're asking for, and then come back to us. Counter. Same thing. You're countering it. I don't want to leave my garage fridge. We like everything else, but remove the garage fridge and we're good to go. Things in the way. Here we go. While you cannot control or predict the actions or decisions of the client or agent on the other side of the deal, you do have complete control over what you say and do in an effort to influence the positive negotiation process. And now I got to move the thing. So negotiating the deal. Negotiations are an integral part of most real estate actions. In fact, they are the most important. In a 2014 National Survey of Realtors, NAR, survey of buyers and sellers, negotiations ranked second on the list of what buyers want from their agent and sixth on what sellers want. So while it's a big part, it's not the big part. As with other offers, or as with the offer process, negotiating is a pivotal point. This is when you've got 2 times to negotiate: when you initially make the offer and during the option period. Option period being the due diligence, repairs requested. The repairs may or may not be money involved, and may not be whatever they're asking for. You just don't know, but you negotiate those 2 times. Potentially a third time if they come back with the appraisal, which technically is still in the option period because it's still contingent on the loan approval. We are always negotiating. You may not realize it, but we are. And this is when that car comes in. It's hard to do, but you can still walk into a car dealership and say, I'll give you 50 grand for that $60,000 Lexus. Exactly. They're going to go, all right, bye. Or you can go in and say, I really want this car, but I don't want to pay the 60. I'll give you 59. All right, we're closer. That potentially could work. Or I'm going to trade my car in. I know you said you'd give me 30 for it. Give me 32 for it. Give me 32 and I'll pay the 60. You're always negotiating. Some point in there, it's that middle ground of, okay, we got what we wanted. Whew, we're done. What is negotiation? It's the fun stuff. This is what I enjoy. This is my favorite part of real estate, is the negotiation. Finding that win-win, going back and forth and finding, okay, what do we need to change to be better than the rest? Or if you're on the listing side, what are we asking you to change to be better than these other ones that we got? So it's a bargaining, it's a give and take. It's okay. I gave you an extra $2,000 for your car. You give us full price for the car you're buying. In essence, you bought the car for 58. So now you're getting what you want. I'm getting another car that I'm going to flip for 40. It works. Be professional, first and foremost. If you start name calling, number one, Freck is going to call you, and you're going to be in trouble with the real estate commission. Lee's going to call you. You're going to be in trouble with Lee. Russell and I are going to call you. You're going to be in trouble with us, because word gets around. So be professional. You will have agents yell at you. I've had them yell and cuss me out, and I've actually told them, hey, Mr. Buyer's agent, when you change your attitude and you want to actually work together on this, you let me know. Until then, I'm going to go back to work, and you have a wonderful day. Click. Yeah. Ultimately, and I say this lightheartedly, sometimes you want to kind of beat them with experience, but at the same time, you're just like, you know what? I've got other things going on right now. You are one of 10 offers that I'm getting right now. I don't need to deal with you. In fact, when you're presenting these offers to your sellers, you can explain to them, well, this agent was very courteous. This one was rude and arrogant. This one did this. I mean, Connie went over this Tuesday. You can tell them, hey, this agent could be a nightmare to work with. Ultimately, you as the agent can ruin deals for your buyers or sellers. You have to be courteous. Your goal is to sign contract. That's your goal. Sign contract, get you to the closing table, be done with it. Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety in your client or other parties, you are reducing their leverage. Evan, if you're the listing agent, I'm the buyer's agent, and I call, I'm an asshole to you. Butthole, sorry. The trucker coming out. I've just made you upset to where when you go tell your sellers, hey, he was rude. Make the counter offer if you want. I don't see it happening. You don't be rude. Don't be mean. You can get off the phone and yell and cuss and just be all the, whatever you want to do afterwards. That's your you time. Get this frustration out. Don't do it to somebody else. And that goes for other agents, leadership, other brokerages, lenders, vendors, inspections, everybody.
one,
Mhm.
and he was really comfortable with working with the animal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. As an agent, you're going to have more and more people you've worked with time and time again, where you and Frank worked great together. You and Sally didn't. Whatever the case is, you've got those people that the moment you see their name on the contract, you're like, yes, yes, or dang it, it'll happen. Continually refer back to negotiation. This is when negotiation or not or motivation. Continuously refer back to motivation. That's where the negotiation tactics are going to really come into play. How quick do you need to do whatever it is you need to do? Don't reveal too much. Listen to your agent or listen to your clients. They're going to tell you what they're thinking or what they need or what they want. Sometimes you can ask some probing questions, but ultimately, if you say something, shut up, let them talk. They will talk. They don't want to. They don't want to sit there in the awkward phase. They're ready to be done. And ultimately, don't be attached to the outcome. Don't get upset. You're going to have deals fall apart. I've had deals of 6 months fall apart, and it was just one of those. Oops. Wasn't anything I did. I couldn't have changed the outcome, but it made me feel horrible because potentially I lost that food on my table. But at the same time, the buyers no longer have a home. Now, granted, in this case, it was the buyer's fault. They were rude. More power to them. But keep in mind, you're going to lose deals. You're going to gain some quick and amazing deals, but you're going to lose them. So common points of negotiation, guys, these are kind of straightforward and easy. Price. Right now in this market, price is a huge one. Terms. This goes back to, oh, we'll let you live in the house for an extra month. That's a huge term for some people. You know, it doesn't always have to be price. Closing costs, closing date, pretty straightforward. You know, if you're the buyer's agent, you're willing to pay some of the seller's closing costs, that can help, and vice versa. Closing costs can be a huge one. Closing date. If my sellers have to be out by July 31st and your buyers don't want to take possession or don't want to close until August, well, that kind of messes up our time frame. So we have a negotiation point or a closing date. Conveyances. I know you would really want that garage fridge. You're not getting my garage fridge. That holds all my beer. Can't have that. Earnest money. Again, 1% to 2% is kind of the natural location for it. Typical, but more is more skin in the game. And repairs. Repairs can be a huge one too, because if you come in like my current one did, oh, we want door stoppers. No. No. Amazon has a 10-pack for $5 and a screwdriver. Have fun. We're not doing that. If you came back because your VA requirement requires us to replace a 2x4 piece of a step that's a foot wide, okay. We'll get somebody out here, rip that board off, put a new board on, sand it and stain it and whatever. It'll cost just $150, but the property will go through. You can negotiate things like that. So remember, obey the laws. We'll be done in just a minute. Obey the laws. There's so many laws out there. Sometimes you're not even thinking about them. Always double and triple check if you ever are concerned about it. Call Lee, call Russell, call me. I may point you to Russell or Lee if I don't know, but we'll get you through it. Daytona, call Justin or me or Lee. And then know your documents. I have a paper copy of every single document that I'll ever use. And if I ever am curious or if I really want to sleep, great, I'll read that document. But check it out, read it. All the contracts for the most part are self-explanatory. If you can read and comprehend what they show, read through them, it'll flat out tell you this line needs this. This line needs this. Read through them and see what they say. And if you ever have a question about a contract or any specific document, Blue Ocean Title, 4th floor here, around the corner in Daytona, go check them. Go check with them. Marla is great. She will be happy to answer any questions you have on it. And she, as a lawyer, can tell you, or attorney, she as the attorney can tell you exactly what it means. Technically, none of us can because we're interpreting the contract and we can't do that legally. So check with them. Identify tactics and using counter tactics. This goes back to the bodily motions. You know, how they're talking, what they're saying, what they're doing. They're predictable. If you come in at a low offer and I'm going to sit back and cross my arms, means you're not liking it. We have a few different terms that we like to use. One is nibbling. This is when they want little bitty things. I know you won't give me the garage fridge, but can I have the knife block that was in the kitchen? Yes, it'll happen. You get some weird requests. I had one that had a light switch. It was a fish. They asked for the light switch. Technically, or the light cover. Technically, it's attached, so it should have stayed, but they put it in the contract. My sellers go, what light switch are they talking? Oh, in our son's room? Our son that moved out 10 years ago because he went to college. We haven't been in that room since. Yeah, they can have that. I forgot that was there. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even remember when we were moving out. So they wanted it, they got it. But they'll nibble for little bits and pieces. Hot potato is back and forth. Well, we're not paying closing costs. Well, my people can't afford it. We're not paying closing costs. Well, my people can only afford a little bit. Well, we're not paying closing costs. Well, they can afford a little bit less than a little bit last time. And it goes back and forth. A hot potato and nibbling go right hand in hand with each other because it's like, fine, we'll take a little bit off. Fine, we'll take a little bit more off. Good guy, bad guy is going to be the fun one because you will have a husband-wife team who husband loves it, wife could care less. Wife loves it, husband could care less. You'll see a lot of husbands where it's like, whatever she wants, I don't care. Those are the easy ones because then you look straight at the boss, ma'am, what would you like? But you will have the ones where it's the husband wants it, wife doesn't, husband does, whatever it is. Ultimately, those are the ones where you get to step out of the house and say, Mr. and Mrs. Husband and wife, we do need to get on the same page. Otherwise, with all due respect, this is a waste of your time as well as mine. And I definitely want to make this as productive as possible for you. So let's talk about what you do and do not want and some make or breaks, and we'll go from there. Sometimes it's that come to Jesus meeting. Let's go back to the square one. Let's start over. All this animosity is not going to help you. That's it, guys. In record time. Anybody got any questions on Zoom or in person? Make it quick because like I said, I gotta get out of here. Be back later. All right. Well, if y'all don't need anything, give me a shout later, and we'd glad to help you if you do.